From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, Vancouver. Your host Chris Cooey is here with another 5-minute newscast of the day. Hope you get something out of it, whether it be just a piece of information or some kind of joy. Beginning in the next school year in Surrey, 3 new schools are coming to the city as hundreds of new students enroll. The Minister of Education and Childcare, Rachna Singh, says as more families make Surrey their choice of home, they're finding solutions to deliver more classrooms as quickly as they can. With a total investment of $54 million, they're adding 36 new classrooms consisting of 875 new seats. The new edition of the classroom is set out to be ready in the fall of 2024. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Premier David Eby jointly announced that the new Iwan Moly facility will strengthen Canada's role as a global leader in clean technology. According to the statement, the province contributes up to $80 million, with $970 million coming from the federal government, Iwan Moly, and private sources. Premier David Eby says as our province builds a stronger, cleaner economy, we open the door to immense opportunities in the private sector that values BC as a center for innovation, investment, and cutting-edge technology. There was a brief appearance today for an Alberta man charged with murder and the death of a young mother 47 years ago. An advancement in the DNA evidence led to the arrest of Ronald James Edwards of Sundre, Alberta, and death of Pauline Brazeau. Her cousin Deborah Portress was 14 when her cousin Pauline died.
Whatever she went through that night should not have happened to her, and at the same time being a Métis girl myself and knowing sometimes we're very vulnerable, I just kind of wanted to pray for her and just be for her that she can't be here.
The case will next be in court in Cochrane on November 21st. Quebec's Forest Fire Prevention Agency says the area burned by wildfires this year was greater than the previous 20 years combined. Nara Ahmad from the Canadian Press has more on the story.
Roughly 4.5 million hectares of land burned during this year's record-breaking fire season. The agency's Director General says more than 1 million hectares burned where most people in the province live, noting that while resources were strained, there were no deaths or critical infrastructure destroyed. Quebec's forest minister says an additional $16 million will be going towards the Fire Prevention Agency to purchase new equipment and fund fire prevention initiatives. Naira Ahmed, The Canadian Press.
Local government leaders in British Columbia are asking the federal government to call for an immediate ceasefire in the Middle East. The letter from the city councillors and mayors as well as the directors from municipalities says that even one life lost is too many and that they mourn with the communities who have lost their loved ones and family members. A couple of Matthew Perry's friends posted their first real heartfelt messages since his death last month. Jason Nathanson from the ABC News has more.
Matthew Perry's work wife on Friends, Courtney Cox, posted a video of a scene of the two of them.
Do you think you know I was here?
And she writes on Instagram that she misses him every day, that he was funny and kind. Perry's work roommate, Matt LeBlanc, posted a bunch of pictures of the two of them on Instagram, writing that the times they had together are honestly among the favorite times of his life. Spread your wings and fly, brother. You're finally free. And he finishes by writing that he guesses Perry is keeping the $20 he owes LeBlanc. The two posts are the first statements from Perry's 5 Friends co-stars outside of a brief joint statement issued in the days after Perry's death. Jason Nathanson, ABC News, Hollywood.
Now moving on to the weather. Today's weather in Vancouver will be mainly sunny throughout the day with a high of 8 degrees Celsius. And tonight we will see increasing cloudiness with a 30% chance of showers overnight. And that's everything for the major 1 p.m. news. See you around in about an hour again.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikka-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikka-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Hello and welcome back to 1680 The Crow. I'm Abby Francis, and here's your 3 o'clock news. BC Safety and Transportation Board is sending a team to Vancouver Island for a sinking that happened nearly 3 weeks ago. A statement from the board says the team will be gathering information from the vessel, which is now in Mill Bay. The tugboat had originally capsized and sunk off Point Grey in Vancouver on October 23rd, which had killed a 61-year-old man who had been aboard that time. Port Alberni RCMP have laid a charge related to weapons on a 30-year-old man. This happened after a fatal stabbing in the city, which is located on Vancouver Island. Police say they had been searching for the suspect since October 20th after a fight took place in the apartment building. The victim was injured and had died in the hospital. The suspect had fled the area until yesterday when officers made the arrest. RCMP say the man will be in court tomorrow and face charges of possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose. Hacking for the Holidays campaign is raising money to build toys for children with disabilities. Our reporter Caitlin No has more on why this campaign is important.
The Neil Squire Society's annual fundraiser uses donations to add external switches to battery-operated toys. Chad Lehman, the Director of Innovation, says adapting toys with an external switch teaches kids with disabilities to control their environment. However, there is a barrier for families to access them.
We're doing this campaign to help get these toys to kids and families. And the big barrier with switch adapted toys is cost. You can buy toys that are already switch adapted that allows that alternate way to turn it on and off. But they usually cost 10 times the amount. There's usually very limited selection. Most of it comes from the States. So it's very much out of reach for many families that need it.
Donations are open on their website until December 31st. Caitlin No, 1680 The Crow.
We're now joined by our reporter Caitlin No. So Caitlin, what are the switch adapted toys?
So while most regular toys have an on and off switch, switch adapted toys have an external switch which helps kids with disabilities learn cause and effect because many of them have limited communication skills.
Right. Are they on track for reaching their goal this year?
Yes, they are on track to reaching their goal of $100,000, and they're going to have a number of events throughout the month to help with their campaign, but they're also working with schools throughout the Lower Mainland and financial institutions to build the toys.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that, Caitlin. Now back to our news. Vancouver City Council has made their decision and revised their strategies on youth violence in the city. Our Jarrison Orishan goes through the discussions on this issue at City Council this meeting.
Continuing after receiving a presentation from the city's Building Safer Communities program on October 18th, councillors debated on revising the language on strategies to make youth feel safe in Vancouver. Councillor Pete Fry made an amendment on one of the amendments on the strategy of addressing gun and gang violence involving youth, was supporting and educating communities about gun and gang violence and develop programs to prevent that. The amendment was passed and all of the strategies made by the program and were passed with opposition from some councillors. Here is Councillor Rebecca Blaze's thoughts on the decision.
We endorse the strategies as outlined in the report, and we are directing staff to follow up with federal government to make sure that there's subsequent funding.
While funding has not been extended beyond 2026, there could still be with future consultations. Jarrison Rashun, 1680 The Crow.
Vancouver Tech Resources have reached an agreement to sell its steel-making coal operations, which are located in the Elk Valley of southeastern BC. The company says the sale could value at $9 billion US, and 70% of the ownership will go to Glencore, a Swiss commodities giant. Japan's Nippon Steel and South Korea's steelmaker POSCO are some of the other companies involved that will also acquire a smaller stake in the business. The tech board chair Sheila Murray says the deal will be long-term and responsible for the operation of steel coal operations and delivers significant value for Tech Resources and shareholders. In more national news, a brief appearance took place today for an Alberta man who had been charged with the murder of a young mother 47 years ago. There had been an advancement in DNA evidence which led to the arrest of Ronald James Edwards in the death of Pauline Brazeau. The late mother's cousin, Deborah Potrea, says she was 14 when Brazeau died.
I just kind of feel that as she went through whatever she went through that night, should not have happened to her. And at the same time, being a Métis girl myself and, knowing sometimes we're very vulnerable, I just kind of wanted to pray for her and just be for her that she can't be here.
The case will be in court on November 21st. The family of a couple killed by a grizzly bear in Banff National Park is setting up an endowment fund at the University of Lethbridge in their memory. Doug Inglis and Jenny Guzzi, who had been in their early 60s, as well as their dog, had died from the bear attack during a backpacking trip the couple was taking in the fall. Colin Inglis says his nephew and Guzzi were very highly respected in their scientific research and were environment stewards. Doug Inglis was a professor at many Alberta universities, and the couple worked for Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. Colin Inglis says the endowment fund will be a lasting legacy and be used to offer for students awards each year. The Canada Pension Plan Investments Heads warns Albertans that they should not want to lose the benefit of the federal plan. The comment comes after Alberta's United Conservative government looks for an exit from the CPP and to set up their own for the province. The CEO and CPP fund, John Graham, spoke to a business crowd in Calgary and says there was a strong business and public policy case for Albertans to stay with the federal fund, saying that the global investment had a proven track record which the people of Alberta can take if they choose to retire out of province. Flags in the Opaskwawa Cree Nation are being lowered in honor of Austin Lethen Bercier. Bercier had left the northern Albertan community to fight in the Ukraine. The nation's chief Maureen Brown says Bercier had left when the war broke out to fight alongside the Ukrainian army.
His death has impacted our community in a way that has caused each and everyone to reflect on our contribution to build a more equitable and just society.
Chief Brown says his family had been told this week of his passing. The Royal Canadian Mint has started making Canadian coins with the face of King Charles. The facility based in Winnipeg and revealed the design of a new coin which will replace the image of the late Queen Elizabeth II. The Mint's president, Mary LeMay, explains it usually takes about a year to create and circulate the new coin.
It takes considerable work for many teams at the Winnipeg and Ottawa to bring a coin from idea to reality. But we knew we could meet this ambitious timeline by working together and with the invaluable support of many partners.
The new coin should start circulating early December. Now on to our sports news. Canada will be represented by 140 athletes in the Paraman Games happening this Friday in Chile. 30 other nations and over 2,000 athletes will be competing in the Santiago from November 17th to the 26th. The competition has 17 different sports, and 24 of Canada's athletes are from BC. The Canadian Paralympics Committee took to X, formerly known as Twitter, and saying, "Santiago, here we come." After back-to-back Canadian championships and a fifth playoff appearance in the last decade, Vancouver Whitecaps are trending upwards heading into the next season. Our reporter, Isaac Newson, explains the soccer club's season and expectations heading into 2024.
In 2023, Vancouver won a third Canadian championship in club history and the second in a row. According to club liaison and former Canadian men's national Bob Leonard-Doozy, the trophy means more than just the silverware for Canadian soccer clubs.
The fact that we could win it 2 years in a row is and that is a source of Canadian pride because you're the top of the heap in Canada.
Over 30,000 people watched in BC Place as Vancouver was eliminated by LAFC earlier this month. But despite a disappointing playoff run, it was still a season full of positives for a young developing team, winning a second straight Canadian championship and placing ahead of both Canadian rivals will certainly boost expectation heading into next season. Isaac Newson, 1680, The Crow.
The Colorado Avalanche beat the Seattle Kraken 5-1. The Avalanche left wing Jonathan Drouin says that once the Kraken stopped pressing, the goals were easy to get.
They were trying to make too many plays when they weren't there, especially against a team like that reloads and to play fast. So I thought we kept it simple. We got shots at the net, traffic there, and it just kind of rolled on them and for 2 periods there.
Winnipeg coach Mike O'Shea will have his 4th straight Grey Cup appearance with the Blue Bombers. A reporter had suggested he's a CFL coaching legend alongside Hugh Campbell, Don Matthews, and Wally Bono. O'Shea says he doesn't want to be a part of it.
That just sounds goofy. No, yeah, I could never think that way. You know, I hold those coaches in very high regard. I've had interactions with all of them, and I would never think of myself in the same light or conversation with those guys, ever.
The Blue Bombers will face Montreal Alouettes Sunday in the 110th Grey Cup. Hockey Canada says that its findings of the investigation report of sexual assault allegations are under appeal. The allegations were around Hockey Canada's junior hockey team from 2018. The organization says an in-camera appeal will happen in the near future. A third-party final report conducted by the Hennian Hutchinson Rubadial law firm was received by Hockey Canada in 2022. Since then, an independent adjudicative panel has held a hearing to determine whether the 2018 junior team players breached the code of conduct and which penalties should be imposed. All players from the 2018 team remain suspended by Hockey Canada and are ineligible to play, coach, officiate, or volunteer with programs relating to the organization. An arrest has been made after the death of former NHL player in England, reporter. Thank you for listening to 1680 The Crow. I'm Abby Francis.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Hi there, my name is Isaac Newson and welcome to For the Record. Today I had the opportunity to talk to Bob Lenarduzzi, Vancouver Whitecaps legend, current club liaison, and National Soccer Hall of Famer. Bob and I touch on last season's success, next season's expectations, and what the fans of Vancouver can expect. So sit back and enjoy. Thank you. I'll start things off right away with kind of just a simple question, but one that I'm super interested in your answer in, and that's kind of after a season this year where things are kind of up in the air as to whether it's a success or we want more. What do you think kind of the answer is to that, and do you see it as a flat out success, or can we expect more kind of next season, and what did we feel about this year?
Well, the team took another step in the right direction this season. I don't think anyone would suggest that it's been a great year, in spite of the fact that we did accomplish a Canadian soccer championship and qualified for the playoffs early. Got to the second round of the League's Cup against the Mexican opposition. So all of those things combined, I think, are a reflection of the fact that we competed. And what I'm excited about is that I think the Axel Schuster and his coaching staff and recruitment staff, if it's not as though the squad needs a makeover. It's the core of the squad, I think, is very good. We've got a couple of difference makers in Krubas and Gold, and so I think we're primed to ideally take that next step next year. And the next step is not hoping we qualify for the playoffs. It's nor is it assuming, but we have the talent to definitely get into the playoffs. And beyond that, then it would be great to have an extended run in the playoffs, which is something that isn't hard to come by in our MLS era.
Awesome, thank you. And you mentioned kind of the difference makers in, I mean, they just happen both to be kind of midfield players, but I want to focus a little bit more on Ryan Gould. You mentioned him, and kind of he has been the difference maker for a couple seasons now, I think. And for me, I think, it's one where that's a player, I think, who has the quality to maybe go to a higher, more better regarded league in the world. But I think kind of how do you think that Vancouver can make sure that we keep a player like that and make sure he stays in the squad?
Well, I'm told that he loves it here in Vancouver, as does his partner, and it's one of the benefits that we have as a club from the point of view of a recruitment tool is our beautiful city. So tick that box, and beyond that, I think he's enjoyed himself here since his arrival. He's a very down-to-earth, quality individual, and when he's playing at his best, and we saw it throughout most of the season, he's the guy that if you need somebody to give the ball to unlock another team's defense, then he's that guy. So assuming he stays happy and loves it here in Vancouver, and we feel the same way, that we'd love to keep him here, and there's no reason to really look beyond that at any other scenarios.
So kind of switching gears a little now, I want to focus a little more on the coach and Sartini, and how do you feel about the kind of job that he's done this year? It's been there's been changes throughout the year kind of frequently, but kind of what can you say about the job that he's done this season?
He's done a great job. We won for the second year in a row a Canadian championship, and made the playoffs and didn't just scrape in this time around. We were in a pretty good position with about 3 or 4 games left. And he's coaches have different ways of going about their business. Some are very laid back and make decisions, and you really don't see or hear from them. And there's others like Vanny who is passionate about the sport, and you can see that passion is evident, and it comes through virtually every game on the sidelines, at practices, in front of the media. And I think that that's something that provides us with another face to the club that that people can relate to. So, I mean, I think he'd be the first to tell you, and he did after the playoff game, that he went a little bit too far with his comments regarding the official. But that happens sometimes, and I think if things happen and as a result you learn from them, and that's all of us go through that. It's when you don't learn from your mistakes that it's a problem. But I think in his case, he realizes that he went too far over the line.
And I want to touch on the playoffs just a little bit, just as you mentioned there. I think it was a tough first matchup, but do you think there's a sense of kind of pride from the players' perspective in terms of, we got beat by a good team, but we really did, turn up, and I think that second leg really showed that we belonged. Do you think there's a sense of pride coming from the players?
I think the players are, and everyone at the club and the spectators are all delighted with the fact that we gave them a run for their money. I mean, if you take the four halves of those two games, outside of the second half in LA, there wasn't a lot to choose between the two teams. And that's where we probably gave ourselves a bit of a mountain to climb, although it wasn't goal aggregate, but nevertheless, they ended up scoring 3 goals in that second half. But we rebounded from that, and the game back home was a game that was played right through to the final whistle with all sorts of excitement, good play, and controversy as well. But so I don't know if pride's the right word. I would think that they'd feel good about it, but I think they feel there's a lot more to achieve.
Yeah, awesome. And just to touch on kind of the other successes of the season, you mentioned the Canadian Championship. And I don't want to use the word pride again, but that trophy, I think, for a club like Vancouver to go back to back and win it again, I think it's super important. And do you think that's kind of an emphasis in the dressing room in terms of, we obviously want to give our all in the league, but we also want to kind of make sure we're in it and we're in this kind of championship back to back?
There's no doubt that that's one of the goals at the start of the season, and has been, again, from the time the competition started, and it's been around for quite a while. And the fact that we could win it 2 years in a row after a bit of a drought prior to that is and that is a source of Canadian pride, because you're the top of the heap in Canada, and on top of that, you find yourself in the CONCACAF Champions League. Now that's more games, but I think that's why the depth of the squad is important, because you need guys that are farther down the depth chart to be able to come in and do well. And I think that there's no doubt the number of games that we played this year, I don't think we would have been as competitive as we were if we hadn't had the depth of the roster. So it would be great to make it a hat trick next year with the Canadian Championship.
Yeah. We touched on it a little bit at the start, but going into next season, I think there's expectations for us, and I think, like you said, I mean, we don't just want to be scraping in the playoffs. We want to be making the playoffs and kind of cementing ourselves in that spot. Going into next season, do you think there's exceeded expectations in Vancouver, or do you think we're kind of on a similar trajectory and we want to achieve similar things next season?
I think that's the beauty of the game, is once you've taken a step to the next level, and you've done that in consecutive years, the expectation rises, and so it should. And so now you're not just comfortable scraping into the playoffs. you want to do that with points to spare, and then you want to be ready for that playoff run. And so expectations now are that ideally the next step is we're going to make a run in the playoffs, and that's not the easiest thing to do in the playoff format that we have, because all it'll take is a couple of slip-ups and you're on the outside looking in again. But there's no doubt that I think the players and the staff and the supporters and even the media are feeling like we have a group of players that are primed to take another step in the right direction, and that will be the objective for next season.
Thank you all so much for listening. That's been For the Record. Isaac Newsom, 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Teresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.